First thing I want to talk about, the emphasis here is social studies. I know at iTech we have a lot with literacy. I've learned a lot about programming and codes and math and science, but not a lot of social studies stuff. So I thought we'd focus a little bit on that today. There will be some stuff for all content areas as well, but social studies is kind of our focus here. So icivics.org is one of my favorite websites. I preach the word about iCivics. They've got a lot of apps, they have a lot of games, they have a lot of lesson plans. This was created by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, so she created it about 10 years ago. I think they just had that anniversary to get kids engaged, get them really playing. Sometimes the games are a little cheesy, but I've seen people play this in middle school. My husband teaches at the university level, and he's used it with his college kids, so it can really go anywhere. So there's a lot of different games, and again, these are all based on mostly government and general social studies. But government's a big focus. One of the most popular ones that my students play is Win the White House. This is the game where even if I don't have a student in class, I'll be walking past them and I'll see them playing this, and I'm like, okay, you're not whatever, but they play this throughout the year. So basically they're running for president. They go through the process of campaigning to each state. They look at which states should I go to, different things like that. So you can see it here, elementary, middle school, high school, a lot of them are set at different levels. Right, so you start off by picking your party. You can look at the different issues. So if you're looking at what each major party believes in, that's a good place to look at that. If you look at the party platforms, they're each about 50 pages long, so this is a little easier. You run for president. Again, you pick your top issues. And then this is the part that I really like as a learning experience. They get to go to each state, decide how am I going to campaign there, how am I doing there, so you can keep track of your electoral votes at the bottom. You can see how many votes each state has, as well as are they leaning one way or the other. So if they're super leaning towards the other party, I might not even bother going there, just like in real life a lot of times. Then we've got, what's politics without money, right? You can fundraise, do that. You can make public appearances. You can poll a state, so it'll tell you what issues you both support, which ones you both oppose. And again, we do a little bit of intro before this and a lot of closure afterwards, but this is a really good way to just constantly be referring to which states did you go to, which states did you not go to. So, another interactive here. What is your favorite method to check for understanding? Alright, so we've got like behind the scenes type stuff, so discussion posts and everything, projects, testing, pair share, quizzes, I love quizzes, whoever said that, high five to you. Exit ticket, tech tools, talkative, quizzes, Kahoot, Flipgrid. I'll have to check out Spiral, I haven't seen that one before. So, looks like we like a lot of different ways to document the learning, so that's good here. I know for iCivics, sometimes I'll have them to show me a certificate, because at the end it'll show you this is documentation that they completed the entire game. Sometimes I ask them questions, so I've got a worksheet that I use with Win the White House up there. So different things like how many votes do you need to win the election? So very lower level questions. Then you've got, start thinking more critically, think, were there some states you went to, some states you didn't? Why did personal appearances make a bigger impact than having a commercial? Even bigger question, does the campaign process give all Americans a chance to learn about a candidate, make an informed decision? So really big picture questions. So I like to do more than just looking at it or certificate, just so I can see individually each kid got it. right, so iCivics, there's a ton of different, again, apps, websites there. If there's an asterisk next to it, that's something I've used in my class before. I teach high school, U.S. history, government, today's politics, lots of social studies classes, obviously. If there's a pound key or sharp if you're a music person, or octothorpe if you like the math, that symbol is next to it if there's an app for that too. So some of these are only on like a Chromebook or a laptop. Some of the other ones, they're gradually making them into apps, but not all of them are quite there yet. So you guys can read. I'll let you look through that a little bit, talk a little bit about some of them. Like Court Quest is one where I know I really struggle with teaching kids about the court process. So if somebody loses a court case, they have to appeal it, keep going up. And that's a really good game for them to actually do that process, because there's only so much you can explain to where they need to actually do it. So that's a good one there. Counties work, if you're trying to find something for local government, that's a really good thing to do for, I'm actually running a town, how does that work? Who do I have to keep happy? Different things like that. Do I have a right is one of my favorite ones for, yep, seen some nods back there. When I talk about the Bill of Rights, you can play it either with the 10 amendments, or you can do all 27, and you basically run a law firm. And again, some of these games are kind of cheesy, but the kids get the point. They like it. They get pretty competitive there. So they have to show off what they know about constitutional rights from the Bill of Rights. Newsfeed Defenders I actually just used that the other day in my social issues class, where it's all about fact checking. I know there's a couple different sessions on learning what's real news, what's not real news. And so that's a good one where you're basically running like a message board kind of thing where people post different news articles and you have to say, is this verifiable? Is this legitimate? So Newsfeed Defender is a really good one for learning how to fact check, just do that process. People's Pie is one that I have a lot of students get very frustrated with. That's when they have to balance the budget. So I'm going to show you another website for balancing the budget other than that one, but it is up there. It is possible, but again, there's one I like a little bit more than that one. All right, Racial Ratify is their newest one. That's all about Federalists and Anti-Federalists. So if you have more of a history kind of class, then that works really well for showing kind of the race to ratify the Constitution, what that looks like. That's the one that my husband used the other day at the college level, and they really enjoyed that. So that can be used at any level there. Again, Win the White House is probably one of the most popular ones. Again, if they're not in my class, or I just walk past a random kid playing it, and I'm like, sweet, you're learning. So if they're doing that in their spare time, it's a good sign, right? All right, so again, my little hack with Pear Deck. If you're presenting, you can add a question that's normally a premium feature. So we're going to do the thumbs up and thumbs down. You can do thumbs up, thumbs down. There's one that's agree, disagree. Yes?
How do you add a question in the middle of the presentation?
So you click the... So I usually start from Google Slides to get to Pear Deck. So you click Present Lesson. It brings you here. And if you go down to the bottom and click New Question, you can add that there. So you can re-ask the same question. You can change the type of question. Again, if you are doing this in Google Slides, it says that these are premium ones, but for some reason it lets you while you're presenting, so if it works, it works, right? All right, and this is another one where I see a lot of kids just moving their stuff around a little down. So most people found something they like there. So there's my own little check for understanding there. All right, some other simulations I mentioned to balance the budget. So this one I used in my today's politics class, and this one's a lot more specific than People's Pie. You have a lot more control over things in this one, so you can raise and increase different types of taxes. You can, if you don't understand like what does this tax mean, it explain like what's the average, different things there. So those are all things that can do. It'll tell you if you are in deficit or a surplus. And so I know my city's politics kids really enjoyed this version. Again, People's Pie really frustrates a lot of my kids just because if they find out, if they make people mad enough, it will kick them out of Congress and they're done with the game, they get their certificate. So that's one thing I don't like, plus this I just like that you have more control over each specific thing that you spend and tax. So that is the one that I personally prefer. Google Expeditions, I know there's been a lot of like virtual reality type things out there. So Google Expeditions, you can take field trips places. I know a lot of times when people are demonstrating, they have those goggles. I know my students all have iPads and we're able to do it just fine with the iPads, don't necessarily need the goggles. I know our AEA lets us rent those out, but they're pretty content just moving their iPad around looking at stuff, so that works too. We've gone to the Taj Mahal, we've gone to Versailles, we've gone to Pearl Harbor, lots of different places you can actually go to in the classroom. First time I did a Google Expedition, I had another kid by the end of class that started his own tour with some kids, so they thought that was pretty cool. Google Arts, which is similar to Google Expeditions, but it's more museum-based. And so one example of something I like from there is Anne Frank. The Anne Frank House has put a lot of their resources up on Google Arts. So when I'm talking about the Holocaust, we go here and we look at Anne Frank, what's her life like. You can see all those primary documents there too. All right, live presentation, so we're moving more into assessment-based interactives. So live presentations, there's Google Slides, which you might be familiar with, right? That one's been around for a while. Prezi, I know I don't use that one as much, but it moves around a lot more, so Prezi's pretty cool. Keynote, I know a lot of my kids like to use Keynote, whether that's for presentations or making posters. It's got a lot of really good templates there, so I've got a example student work there. They made posters advertising for a different type of English colony. So tell me about that colony, why you should live there. So that was an example of them using the Keynote. All right, there's Educreation, which actually just used this past week, which is kind of like a screen recording type thing. So there's actually a couple different options for screen recording. And if you pulled up this on Google Slides, I put the directions for how to do a screen recording in the speaker notes. So if you wanted to look at that, that's some step-by-step instructions there. Educreation, I've got an example here. We're just finished talking about the Civil War in our U.S. history classes.
This document stated that the emancipation of all slaves in the Confederacy was now illegal. This affected the southern states more than any other place in the United States. This is extremely significant because it allowed black men freedom to reside and not be owned with property. They can now join the Union Army, not only would it stand the Union politically, but it also helped their military. This later transitioned into the Henry XIII Amendment.
So just a quick video of them doing a voiceover type thing and the drawings. You can also do screen recording for that. I learned that you can do that on Flipgrid yesterday, so that's a cool thing. Flipgrid's got a lot of new materials there that I've been playing with a little bit. We've also got Imovie, so hopefully this helps a little bit with some apps and how you can use them, especially for social studies, because I know a lot of times, here's a lot of cool apps. Don't know how to use it or what to use it for, but there's a lot of cool apps. So iMovie I like to use for making videos. You can also do, I have a 1920s radio project, so radio was invented in the 20s, so that's one way you can use like a podcast or a radio type thing. You can do voice memos as well. So I've got, again, a couple examples here. here's the radio project.
Information. Next up, we've got Gemma here with us to tell us all about our crime. Gemma, what do you have to tell us about crime here?
In this week's edition of The Crime Corner, we will be taking a look at the mysterious death of 14-year-old Bobby Franks. Stay tuned to find out just what happened to the young boy and who the surprising killers really were.
It's the coolest new drink in the States. Looking for a refreshing beverage to help perk up your party? Then drink Coca-Cola. It'll get your party hopping faster than any drink on the block. Next thing you know, you'll have the hippest party around.
So example of a radio project, I've got another one where someone did, this was about Latin America and Ancient America. So they talked about chinampas. They get all creativity points here. They made it on Minecraft and then took a tour of it. So that was their idea. So kudos to them. They've come up with some cool stuff. So if your kids know how to use Minecraft, that was pretty cool. Legos as well. Alright, clips you can make, video clips, you can add emojis. It's kind of like a little Snapchat form, so a format that they're used to. TC Studio is one thing, it's like iMovie, but times 1,000. I'll show you an example first. These guys were making a project in my World Civilization class about monks and monasteries in the Middle Ages. They're a little silly, so just a heads up.
Hello, fellow disciples of the Lord. It's Father Mark, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's vlog, we're going to be collabing with the nuns and monks answering all of your religious life questions. Stay tuned, and now let's get into the video. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below and pick up your copy of the Bible. Hi, I'm Lucian. The first question we got was, what's the difference?
So you can add different captions at the bottom. You can add graphics, so you saw her put some clip art in there. One thing I really like about this app is that you can add a teleprompter in there, so you don't have kids staring down while they're trying to record or just staring off into different things. So they can have that up there, they can change the speed of the text. So I really like that. So that's an example here, as well as so I actually used this app when I was helping a friend learn sign language for a song she was going to be doing. So I've got a picture up here. I like that you can interact with the picture while it's up there. You can do that with maps too. You can do that with videos. So just being able to interact with something while you're recording. Okay, so again, there's lots of templates there for like a talk show, news, studio. You can give a speech from the Lincoln Memorial. A lot of those are set already, or you can start from scratch. You can change the title. You've got that teleprompter on the side there. You can draw on it. You can edit the text. So again, if you're looking for something a little bit beyond Movie Maker, this is a good one. Movie Maker, iMovie. You can add, again, videos. You can add different things from Drive, YouTube videos, map locations. If you look this one up on the App Store, it's actually listed as TouchCast Studio, but when you have it as an app, it shows up as TC Studio, so I don't really know why it does that, but if you're trying to find it and you can't, that's probably what's going on there. All right, Flipgrid. It's another thing that I've heard a lot about in the last couple days. So Flipgrid, you can make a video. You can also, as I learned yesterday, you can start screen recording on different things. So there's a 3-minute limit, but 3 minutes is usually, if you're really going to be concise about something, that's a good amount to have. One thing I like about Flipgrid too is that you can either make it so all the students can see it or just the teacher can. So if you're worried about some kids get very self-conscious about recording themselves or even just recording the ground, them talking over it. So that's something to keep in mind, that you do have those options there. I really like having my students create tweets about historical moments. So you can do something, I've got a generator there so you can type in who's doing the tweeting, you can add a picture, have a conversation back and forth on Twitter. You can also just make a box and put your name in it. It doesn't have to be super complicated. So I've got a breaking news from Boston Tea Party, so I put my name there. I've had different historical figures tweet from different events, different battles and such. So that's something, and those are a lot more fun to grade than just regular assignments. So they come up with some creative stuff there with creating tweets. Right, Pear Deck. These are all things that we can use during class, because sometimes they're just stuff that you have to say, this is what you need to know. We'll check on it later, but there's some stuff you just have to do. So Pear Deck, so it's, again, similar to Google Slides. It's an add-on to Google Slides. You can ask questions, checks for understanding. You can take surveys on different things. Nearpod, which is very similar to Pear Deck. I know I looked into Nearpod, and I personally just prefer Pear Deck, so I can't tell you a ton about Nearpod, but very similar type stuff. Google Slides, question and answer. So if you've got Google Slides, you're presenting, you can open it up for question and answer. So while you're presenting, if kids have a question, they can go to that website and ask the question. Once the question's up, the teacher can either put it up on the board, or you can have the teacher just look at it, and you can either have a bunch of questions throughout the class, you can answer them at the end, you can answer them as they ask them, but just anytime somebody's confused, they can just say, this is where I'm lost, because a lot of times when kids come to get help, they don't know where they got lost, they just know that they're confused. Right, Ed Puzzle, which we'll do a sample of here. So there's a QR code, so if you have an iOS or iPad, you can scan that, and it'll take you to the Ed Puzzle website. This is something you can do in class, or you can also make it more of a homework assignment. So it allows kids to watch a video several times, as many times as they need to, and then they can ask questions. They cannot skip ahead, so they will be watching the whole video. So that's, again, something you can do as homework if you're really trying to get kids to be taught something, or you're just really having a hard time keeping up with all the content you need to cover. So I made an Ed puzzle for you guys using one of my favorite YouTube teachers. You can make classes on Ed Puzzle, you can assign different videos to Ed Puzzle. so Mr. Betts does a lot of parodies to historical events, so he's got one for pretty much any kind of thing you could talk about in social studies class. So my personal favorite is his Bill of Rights one, about 500 miles by the Proclaimers. So we'll watch him head us up here.
It's a perfectly good plan. Why would you anti-federalists just ratify this Constitution? If I sign this, well, I know you're gonna be the one telling me how to breathe. If I sign this, well, I know you'll take the right of free speech and press it petition away. If I sign this, well, I know that you will not be able to leave my vote alone. If I sign this,
Alright, so it stops the video and then the question pops up, and that should be popping up on your screens too if you logged in there. You know, a lot of times if I show a video, I can't guarantee that everyone's getting everything out of it, so it's always good to have a quick check, stop the video, see how they're doing. So I got 5 out of 7, I'm missing 2 people. Time's sake, we'll just keep going here, but you'll click continue. It'll show you what the correct answers as well as how people did. So you guys got 100%, very good. If you have any people that missed it, you can rewatch and it'll do just that portion of the video that the question was from. So we'll continue here.
I don't trust you, I cannot. I just cannot trust you from bordering my heart. 'Cause I don't trust your Constitution, and I think it's something wrong. Like a Bill of Rights to stop the government from trying to take.
So one of the men in the wig wants to add to the Constitution based on that video clip. Alright, so you want the Bill of Rights? So again, if somebody misses it, you can click the rewatch and it'll just play that clip that the question was from. Alright, so again, it's not showing the whole video, but just the part that they have a question about, you can see again. And so I trimmed that video so it wouldn't be the whole thing. You do have that power at Puzzle if you want to show the whole thing, if you want to show just a clip of it. You can add those questions in there. You can look up ones that are already out there that you can just reuse. So that is Ed Puzzle. All right, some additional resources. There is a Twitter page called Social Studies Drive, it's Google Drive, and blanking on the guy's name, I want to say something Harmon. He created it, and if you fill out a Google form, he will add you to this Google Drive, and this is what social studies teachers across the country have compiled a Google Drive with different classes, different resources, so that's something that is just a goldmine of awesome ideas. Okay, all you have to do is fill out a form, get permission, you can take anything you want from there. You can add anything you want to there. They've got pretty much every kind of social studies class under the sun in there. Mr. Bett's class, yeah, he's a favorite of mine. Social studies on Twitter, there's a lot of social studies chats. So if you're ever trying to find a group of people to talk to in your PLN on Twitter, there's a social studies chat. The last Monday of the month, they do combine that with English. So there's a slightly different hashtag there, but that's every Monday. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. Teach Like a Pirate is an excellent book that I definitely recommend. So he has his own Teach Like a Pirate through social studies. Twitter chat as well. So lots of Twitter things there. And then we've got one more Pear Deck question. Another thing you can do on Pear Deck is you can have a student paste one. So if you feel like students need to stay on a slide for a little bit longer, you can allow them to go back and forth, or you can make them stay with wherever you have it at. So that's an option too. All right, lots of Ed Puzzle and iCivics fans, some tweet simulators. And again, that's my Twitter handle. I didn't want to overwhelm you too much. I know I threw a lot of different resources at you, so I'll be here through the end if you have questions or if you want to try out something. I'll be here. I know for me it helps to get a bunch of apps that don't have time to play with it, so here's your time to play. Any questions for me at all?
I have a question about Ed Puzzle Live.
Yes.
So you're showing multiple choice questions. Can you do free response questions when you're doing that? Do you do free? I guess my question is, I know with my students, some might be able to do an open response in a few seconds. Some might take a really, really long time. Is there a way to proceed before? Well, you kind of showed that. Yeah, there is a way to proceed. Will that student still be able to finish?
Yeah. So if you assign it as homework, I'll pull it up real quick here. Because this is something I've been thinking about doing recently too, where if they get it in class, that's awesome. If they need to rewatch it a couple times, that's awesome too. We will. So you can assign it as homework, and then you can still do it live. And as long as they're in the class, they can access it later if they need to rewatch it, watch it a couple times, and then you can see that as well, how they're doing. So.
And I have one more question about that.
Yes.
Like the whole rewatching a clip. Do you do that? You probably don't do that when like just one student bombs a question, do you, or do you kind of?
No, just to show you what it looked like.
Yeah. But I can see it, the benefit there.
Yeah.
But the students totally miss the concept. You know what? We watch this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when I assign Egg Puzzle as homework, if the kids go off the tab, it stops playing. But when it's live, it doesn't, does that happen? Obviously, because I went off the tab and it doesn't anymore, so there's no way to like lock them into the egg puzzle, is there?
Not that I'm aware of. It would, if they're signed up for that class, it would still show up that they hadn't answered the questions.
Okay.
So you don't still have some of that accountability there. All right, thank you for your questions and thanks for coming.